good. I'm good.
Yeah, okay. We'll invite you to sit first. So that
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Ratnawati Muhammad Ashraf, Director Research Management Center IIUM. Yang berbahagia Dr. Nur Azmi alias Senior Vice President Research Management of Collaborative Research in Engineering Science and Technology Center, CREST. Deans and Directors of IIUM, invited guests, lecturers and staff of IIUM, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to all to the KICT Lecture Theatre 1 for the IIUM Premier Innovation Lecture Series number 2, 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, to gain barakah for the event, let us all raise our hand and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease and make smooth of our today's occasion. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, all praise be to Auntie, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the Judgment Day, the alone we worship, the alone we ask for help. O God, show us the straight path, the path of whom you have blessed, not the path of whom you have cursed, and not the path of whom who goes astray. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, sesungguhnya Engkau Maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini ingin menimba ilmu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan potensi kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau radai, seterusnya memartabatkan institusi kami demi untuk agama, bangsa dan negara. Maka Engkau berkati dan rahmatilah perhimpunan kami ini. Kurniakanlah kepada kami ilmu-Mu, sinarilah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya dan hidayah-Mu. Ya Dzal Jalali wal Ikram. Kurniakanlah jiwa kepada kami kesihatan anggota, kecergasan minda, ketenangan jiwa, kekuatan semangat. Semoga dengannya kami mampu mendepani cabaran, berdaya saing dan mampu mengangkat martabat diri, keluarga, masyarakat dan negara. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al Allahumma fina wa la ma'ana wa la man yatba'una shaqiyan wa la matrudan wa la mahruma. Allahumma ja'al khaira a'marina akhiruhu wa khaira a'malina khawatimuhu wa khaira ayyamina yawma alqaka fih. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman wa la taj'al في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين يا الله. Ladies and gentlemen, before I invite our distinguished guest to deliver his talk, please allow me to call upon our respected Professor Ratnawati Muhammad Ashraf, the Director, Research Management Center, to deliver the welcoming remarks on behalf of the Deputy Rector, Research and Innovation. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, brother. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's very nice to see all of you here today. We are getting a crowd. Very happy to see that people are coming in. I do see colleagues from various kuliyas. I have my dean there at the back. Thank you very much, Prof, for being here. We have colleagues from engineering, from economics. There I see. Just a minute. You see, I have my glasses, which allows me to see far. But when I made the glasses, I forgot to ask them to allow me to read something. So that's why I took off my glasses. So I need glasses. I don't need glasses for reading. But I do need glasses to see you. All right, so we have our colleagues from economics, from education. May I know what are the kuliyas, which are the kuliyas we're from? Engineering? Anyone from engineering? Okay, quite a number. Engineering. KICT? Okay, quite a number from KICT. From KICT, okay, that's great. KICT, all right. Any other kuliah here? IRKHS. IRKHS. Okay, absolutely great. Okay. KICT also. Okay, great. Any other kuliah that I have not mentioned? Law. Okay, very good. So it shows, to me, I think to all of us, this shows, your attendance here is testimony to the fact that we are, or the kuliahs are interested in knowledge, in innovation, and in seeing, what we can do to promote knowledge and innovation in IIUM. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. Your support and participation in this IIUM Premier Innovation Lecture Series is again testament to the fact that aspects such as innovation and knowledge are dear to us. The talk that we are going to be listening to today is the second in the IIUM Premier Innovation Lecture Series. And this was introduced by the Office of the Deputy Rector of Research and Innovation as part of the university's initiatives to nurture and enhance the research and innovation ecosystem in the university. The speakers for the lecture series are prominent leaders from higher education as well as from the industries. The first of the series was successfully conducted on the 24th of March in 2017 with the Yang Mulia Tengku Datuk Dr. Muhammad Azman Sharifuddin Tengku Ibrahim, who gave a talk on the new economic opportunities in STI-based industries and strategic roles for IIM research and innovation. So that was that was held on the 24th of March. The 115 academics who joined the talk, either right here in this conference room or through video conferencing in the Kuantan campus, were exposed to the key elements of a collaborative network. That is a network based on demand-driven R&D. So one of the entities identified during that lecture on collaborative efforts was CREST, which I think many of you are already quite familiar with, collaborative research in engineering, science and technology. And so this is the reason, as a continuation of the first series of the IIUM Premier Innovation Lecture Series, that we have invited our distinguished speaker, Dr. Nur Azmi alias, who is a Senior Vice President of CREST. He has had more than 20 years of industrial R&D experience, and he is indeed the right person to talk to us this morning. By the way, I had a very engaging conversation with Dr. Nur Azmi this morning. We talked about his experience, his industrial experience, how he has been with Motorola, for example, and so on. So he is the right person to talk to us this morning. So the topic that he has agreed to give a talk on today is directed innovation and driving ideas from the laboratory to customer-centric innovation. Indeed, a very relevant and timely topic, because coincidentally we have also had our inaugural IIUM World Prosumer Convention 2017, which I think many of you had attended. Where we had a lot of activities. So this was a week-long convention comprising conferences, symposiums, workshops and talks organized by the kuliahs in the university, both in Gombak and in Kuantan, with the theme Translating Innovation to Wealth. So the participants were consciously made aware of the fact that nowadays consumers are no longer following the trends set by producers, but are setting their own trends by producing their own products to their own specifications and selling them to other consumers through the advent of technology. So the highlight of the prosumer convention was the Pitch Your Product session, which was a very successful event where researchers, students, not just university students, but also students in schools. We had even students coming from primary schools pitching their products. So what they did was that they had sent their videos of their products. They were then shortlisted, and then they were asked to present. And they were quite, especially, of course, we've got a lot of good innovative products and inventions coming from our researchers, but it also what drew the attention of the judges and the participants was also the participation of the school children, where we could see how they were pitching. It was very interesting to see how they're pitching, and it was both amusing and both an eye opener that students that young were capable of good ideas when it comes to possible inventions. And the picture product was so successful that it was the ideas were so good that a lot of these inventions had gathered or had made the judges who were industry from the industry interested enough to want to commercialize them. So we hope that this picture product will be held again next year, so that our researchers will be ready, inshallah, with innovative products can be quite a lot of things. It's not necessarily related to engineering, for example, and we have had a lot of innovative products coming from the non-science backgrounds as well. So I shouldn't be talking too much, and I shouldn't be spending any more time talking, but let us now listen to Dr. Nur Azmi's talk and see how we can change our research into innovation which will fill the customer's needs. Before inviting Dr. Nur Azmi, I will hand back the session to our distinguished MC. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ratnawati, for highlighting to us that the IIUM Premier Innovation Lecture Series is one of the initiatives to nurture and enhance the research and innovation ecosystem in the university. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to have our honorable guest as a speaker for today's lecture, but before that, it is now my pleasure to introduce our honorable speaker, Dr. Nur Azmi Alias, Senior Vice President, Research Management, Collaborative Research in Engineering Science and Technology Center. Recent focus on developing immediate and long-term solutions to growth of key clusters in electrical and electronic sector in Malaysia, initiating pilot activities to drive cluster development programs covering developing innovative R&D relevant talent in design, development and research at undergraduate and postgraduate level, targeted research programs in new and emerging fields through cross-sector collaboration, healthcare, transportation, retail, and collaboration with top global universities and research institutes. More than 20 years industrial R&D experience in technical and management roles ranging from semiconductor packaging, electronic chemicals, electrochemical applications, and telecommunication product design and components technology, graduate school experience in electrochemical impedance spectroscopy method for characterization and prediction of failures of metals and composite in marine environment, in-depth analysis of failure mechanism through surface, elemental and compositional analysis, more than 30 publications in international journal and talks in national and international conferences, co-inventor in U.S. patent on self-healing coating for alloys in marine environment, U.S. patent more than 6 million, electroactive polymer coating for corrosion control, and various patent publications on radiation curable composition for photoresist application. Dr. Nazmi obtained Bachelor of Science, Master of Science, and PhD in Chemical Engineering from the University of Rhode Island, specializing in the field of corrosion science and technology, specifically in the application of localized impedance spectroscopy methodology, photoelectron spectroscopy, and phase transformation in characterizing degradation and protection of alloys, tribological coatings, and polymer composites in marine environment. MashaAllah, it's very hard to, to read that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we invite Yang Berbahagia Dr. Nur Azmi alias Senior Vice President of CREST to deliver his speech entitled Directed Innovation, Driving Ideas from Laboratory to Market Through Customer-Centric Innovation. Please welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to all. How are you? First of all, I'd like to thank, IIUM, especially, Prof. Ratna, and, I guess, Office of Research and Innovation for inviting me. And now I know how I got invited, I guess, through a common, friend, over the last few a year or so. I think been, had a personal engagement with Tengku Azman himself. We were talking about how to, create a model for, to I guess, spur new economic opportunities. I think that was, that's how I got engaged with him. I know him by name before that, but I think, over the last 1 year, I actually got the chance to really meet the guy who actually, started Mimos, I suppose. And it was very, pleasant, engagement with him. So, yeah. Okay, so I guess, we're very lengthy. I never expect you have a very lengthy introduction of myself. I never actually, expect you to do that. Yeah, I started my study, well, in fact, I always fall in love with doing, so-called chemistry. I mean, I'm a chemist person. I think like a chemist, since I was a kid, I suppose, when I go to school, and still think like a chemist, even though I'm fully, devoted my time now in the electronic sector. I guess that's kind of a bit of a, tricky bit. How does a chemist and a chemical engineer work in the electronic sector? Anyhow. So I think the topic, I choose is, I think, something aligned to not, because of the kind of a trend in town, or the kind of people pick the topic of innovation. Innovation is something that's been, around for a long time. I'm just going to share in terms of our perspective as an organization, and so my personal perspective, in innovation. And in fact, I never did anything that make a new product until I joined a chemical company called UCB Chemicals back then in 1997. All my research was all about try to analyze, characterize how material fails. And I study, failures of, composite, failures of metals, corrosion, failures of joints. Had the opportunity to work with I think Texas Instrument. They were in, Massachusetts back then. Understand how materials, affect performance of electronic products. So all my research, background during academic years was study how things fail, and never did actually make anything until. Even when I started my first job in Motorola, I never actually did anything about making new products. It's all about testing how their product failing in the line. And they say, well, you need to call somebody to understand how materials behave and what's causing material fail. So that's how I got my so-called branding of, become the person that, go and, do a little bit of a kind of CSI kind of thing, try to understand how, the semiconductor component fails either in the market or in the product line when they assemble it. So then I got a chance to work with a company in the chemical industry. Actually, I learned how to be a chemist while in my second job. So I do a self-learning for about 2 months. They took me to Belgium for about 2 months and put me in the lab. So I work like basically technicians in the lab. Do my own, formulations and whatnot, and make smokes and all that, and then eventually start up the research team in Seremban back then to actually, interestingly, to develop polymers, photoresist for electronic market, for PCB and also for color filters. I think color filters were sexy then because there's a lot of LCD and you had to make these color filters to give you all the different lights and whatnot. So we were making that polymer for the color filters, by the way. So that's how I got started. So anyhow, looks like I need to bring this thing closer because I need to change the pages. No, wait. So the topic I choose is about directed innovation. Basically how do you direct your research activity or your innovation? I mean, sometimes you cannot really differentiate between research and innovation, so that you can bring your idea to market. To really solve the customer problem. Outline again. Maybe you could be kind of a scene setting in terms of the global challenges, not just Malaysia. And we think we are so unique that we have all these challenges about, hey, we're not spending enough in R&D, our R&D output are very low, and blah, 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 but we are not that unique. So it's a global problem. So, so when somebody say Malaysia's not doing good in R&D, so does other countries. So does other countries does not produce the same so-called percentage of R&D into commercialization. So, and in fact, just go down to Johor, to the Causeway, they probably have bigger problem than us because they don't have manufacturing, by the way. So Singapore has more problem because they're spending a lot more in R&D, in billions of US dollars, but their so-called percentage of commercialization is even lower, probably. So don't feel bad that you don't get there. But of course, people from the government will always going to tell you that, right? Not enough, not good enough, and do better. So same thing in the industry. My boss always tell me that. Thank you, good job, do better, do more with less, right? So these are always the jargon from the industry. I'm going to touch a bit in terms of generation of R&D management, from the first generation R&D to fourth and the fifth generation R&D, so you can have an idea where you are, what kind of management style do you apply in doing R&D. Are you first generation, second generation, or fourth generation? And just kind of a initial touch in terms of the types of innovation that to be to look at, and what are the forces and drivers to drive more innovation among yourself. They will talk more in terms of demand-driven, customer-centric innovation with real examples of how we did it in CREST. And I'm glad I decided not to use the so-called the graphics from ASM Neo presentation, Neo opportunities, so that you get more in depth in terms of how we do things in CREST. Then talk a bit more in terms of how do you do a collaborative model to actually drive innovation. It's very important. So these are the two key references. I don't claim that I read from the front end to the back end of the book. It's never going to read. I never read finished books anyhow. I just scan books and look what are the things that I need from books, and that's how I read. So these are some good reference for you to look at, to read about what are the challenges. Kind of a high level picture. So for people probably in the management side, we want to take a look at this so that you don't feel that you are the only one having that problem, right? So they know that the whole world having similar challenges. So, yeah. Yeah, maybe the organizer can. You can keep it dark, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, let's try that. Let's turn off whatever light you can turn off. Maybe from the back, probably. Better. Okay. Are you okay with that? All right. As long as you don't fall asleep, I'm fine. All right. Okay. So this is just a teaser to chart just to compare between the the global trend in R&D expenditures versus the GDP. To the Malaysian numbers of GDP and also R&D spending. So our GDP is better than the rest of the world. I mean, the world average, right? I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, the GDP, the so-called the gray global GDP growth is about 3%. We are hovering 4 or 5%, and people still think that we are not doing good enough in the country. I don't know why, but I think from that point of view, I think we are much better than the global average. But then what's so glaring is the flip side is our spending on R&D is very, very low, right? The rest of the world, the average is about 3 to 5%, 4 to 5%. We are just hovering slightly above 1%. So how do you expect not spending money in doing R&D or innovation and to expect miracles to come out from it? Well, there could be miracles, but not in big ways. But I guess that's the challenge that we have, right? Now I understand, all this LRGS and Mohi grant and Mosti grant also been kind of they kind of turn off the tap, maybe just open quarter tap now, not a full tap anymore. So there's less money flowing out. So everybody have to go and fight for the smaller pool of money, right? So that's what it is. Yeah. Where do we stand on innovation? I mean, this is just numbers that I pick up. All different kind of index, competitive index, ease of doing business. We're doing good. We are doing well in terms of ease of doing business. Competitive index, we're not that good in 2012. And look at the global innovation index. We are 32 in 2013, but in 2014 we don't even make any. So the number's going up. So you should read it. The number should go down to be better, not going up. It's better. So, and it's a trend where so-called index that you don't want your number to go higher, you don't want your number to go lower, but we are going the wrong direction, right? So these are the challenges that need to be worked out, right? So how do we do that? And I think there are a lot of reports, a lot of so-called roadmap blueprints talking about this and how to address it. So I'm not going to be the spokesperson for the government. For our roadmaps, you can go and look at all the roadmaps and see what are the so-called the ways the government are thinking of doing. So that's available here. So in summary, what are the challenges that was written in the so-called this book on the recent OECD review of innovation policy in Malaysia, 2016? I think somehow we never get out from this Asian crisis in 1990. I think it was also double dip. The late 90s, 97 to 206, you got the second dip of the economic crisis. Investments dropping, slightly going up now. Productivity lower. Market export market decreasing. We used to take pride that we have a low labor cost. Now people going to Vietnam, right? People go to other countries that are probably cheaper, so we cannot fight on low labor costs anymore, right? Though we always fight with between the so-called the manufacturers and people who are looking in terms of policy. Why should we bring more so-called foreign workers for the low labor? Because our own labor is expensive, so we bring foreign labor to keep that low labor cost. But probably that's not the way to go. And also the low value add of export. I'll talk more about that within the perspective of the E&E sector, a bit later. But they also say the opportunities in the global value chain. So if you involve Malaysia as a part of the global value chain, then you can, take advantage of, in terms of if you create more sophisticated and complex product goods, you can increase the value add. That means you can have more, so-called revenue per sales. And then, there are services that you can, trade that has a high knowledge content. Could be services and engineering, could be the finances services. So these are some of the opportunities, right? So, so not limited to just engineering products, so-called tangible products, could be also services. So these are some of the, opportunities given from the report, yeah. Another study you should read, kind of a sanctioned by EPU through the UK and Pakaruni Internet Work with the Harvard Business School, and I was, able to be, was invited to be part of the panel to look at the study and, in the brainstorming session, looking in terms of the complexity of Malaysian manufacturing industries, the complexity of the products and the value of products that we produce, not just the local company or including multinational companies. And this is a very good, report to read to understand why you need to go into more complex products, right? So I'm not going to talk about the so-called the product space, very, a difficult chart to read. But if you're interested, you are have some analytical, some analysts, mind, in yourself, you could go and take a look at the book. But by the way, you can download from the website, from EBU website. So everything's out for free, except for the OECD report 2016. You need to purchase that. They're talking about in terms of, give a bit of kind of a mapping in terms of Malaysian export category, how we started from the so-called natural products to starting to have electronics. Sorry, it's not too clear. And it's grew actually, the light blue that you have here is, if you don't mind, I'm just going to walk to the chart and better that way. So this chart right here is basically the electronic, component, right? So it was about 10%, it went up to 18%, so over the 10 years, 1990 to 2000. But between 2000 and 2010, only about maybe 2% increase. Very small. This is about value of our export, right? So that means that something, went not terribly wrong, but something that I see, a competitive nature from the rest of the world, we are not that good in terms of delivering more value-added product. So if you look in terms of just, because I'm coming from the E&E sector, so I'm just going to focus on the E&E sector here, the export value add. What are Malaysia's top 5 electronic export? Microprocessors, ICs, hard disk drive, transistor, printed circuit. These are, by the way, components, right? And you know that you can buy this in kilos now. You can buy this from, online and very cheap product, right? So it doesn't, have a lot of, so-called commercial value. Value add is low. Maybe the technology content is high, but the value, of per piece probably low. So those are the challenges. Yeah. So if we compare ourselves to, Singapore, for example, our per capita income is about 1/4 of what what Singapore is, right? It's basically relate that to the so-called what do we export. What you produce determines your income, right? So this is a good chart to read for those economics and people who also want to understand what research here is to focus on, not just focus on maybe just component, but how do you deliver your components to the market. We talk more about that in terms of perhaps the business model innovation. Our complexity is very low compared to rich countries. You don't have to go far, just compared to Singapore. So if you look at these numbers right here, our numbers of technology index is technology import index is high, even the import index is quite low. The high tax export index, this is quite similar to Singapore. So therefore, the value add that we have is very, very, very small. Yeah. So you can go to the book and look at more details. So these are some indicators that what you should be doing, right? We have the knowledge, we have the technology, knowledge, and we have people who can actually develop good product, high-tech product. But are we doing the right products? That's the key point. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a state of R&D. As I mentioned earlier, we are not unique, but these are this kind of snapshot in terms of commercialization of R&D projects from public R&D, less than 5%, and less than 3% is basically funded by the industry. 38% manufacturing innovative, so very low innovation among the manufacturing companies. So therefore, there is a strong drive, strong need to move towards what we call open directed innovation. So it could be just first innovation, direct innovation, but from the point of view of CREST, because we are more of an open platform, so we said it has to be open direct innovation, because then you can get more people and crowd-based, so-called innovation come in and drive the solution into the market. Yeah. So I guess the landscape is that I think most people know about that. I'm just going to make sure that we're all on the same page before we go to the next level. And the next topic I want to talk about, the type of, R&D management. And I'm pretty sure you guys have been doing R&D since you decided to pursue your postgrad, right? And still doing it now, So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but just to give you a little bit of one chart to talk about. These are coming from, all this expert about R&D management process and theories. So now they are even talking about sixth generation, of R&D generation, sixth generation. The first generation, basically, people look at, this is back in 1950s to mid-60s, where R&D is like an ivory tower. So whoever works in the R&D department in any organization, they're like very special group, right? So only selected people stays there, and they're basically looking at, purely technology, how to push technology to market, and looking in terms of our scientific breakthroughs, right? So this is the first, style of, R&D. The second generation is about, how do I create business from R&D, right? R&D is as a business. Market pool, that means that you define what R&D have to work on from the business, and then drive so-called activity based on the business need. So now then they introduce all the project management and internal customer concept into the second generation. The third generation started in about mid-70s. Now instead they have a whole portfolio, moving away from individual projects. So if you have multiple projects under the same cluster, for example, in say one department, so you have a portfolio management of different projects. But the portfolio has to meet certain particular market goal, right? So you're working as an individual, you're working on a project, but if you are working in the Office of Research and Innovation, for example, they should be looking at portfolio of the projects that perhaps the company or the organization is pushing towards building, so-called, the positioning in particular market. So you have to have a portfolio, right? So you have to do portfolio management with a new product, next generation product. So you have a little bit of understanding what research area you have to focus on, the short term, long term, medium term kind of thing, right? Then the fourth generation in terms of integrative activity, R&D as integrative activity. Learning from with customers, this is probably closer to the prosumer in terms of understanding the customer need, and make it part of the integrative activity involving your customers in your product development process and vice versa, right? And the fifth is probably more towards what we are looking at right now, and there's talk of the town. How do you create more in terms of R&D as a network, focus on collaboration within the wider system? And easy said than done, right? Even from where we stand. Not all so-called clusters, not all business are the same. So people thinking that you can just take one model and apply it to another business. And in fact, the story of CREST is when we first started our CREST, we actually have no model. So we've been told, because we were working together with Kazana in northern region, looking in terms of different model from Stanford. We talked to Stanford Research Institute, what is their model of innovation in Stanford area. We also, get people to look in terms of how the A-Star does things in Singapore, E3, Fraunhofer, and probably heard about Steinbeis and whatnot. We studied all that, right? And the consensus is we think that we should not try to take a model from any of that and plug it into Malaysia ecosystem. And therefore we say we have to actually build from scratch organically. We have to build our own model. So it was never a plug-in. I think if you talk to Tengku Azman, if you talk to his team of analysts, they was like, where did you guys pick up this model of CREST? We don't. So we learn what people have done and see whether can it fit to our ecosystem. For example, in Taiwan, there's a big ecosystem of SMEs. There's no multinationals, right? So these are things that we need to understand, that we are in the E&E sector, we are heavily populated or mainly driven by multinationals, even though the numbers of SME companies is big, but the market is driven by multinationals. So we have a different dynamics. And to go from E&E and apply it to other, let's say, our oil and gas industry will not be a direct so-called translation, because it has a different model. If you look at the oil and gas and perhaps also our telco sector, you have the so-called the brotherhood, so-called the organization that quote-unquote controls the so-called the industry, right? Not in the E&E sector, and you have then the rest are more with supplier-based supply ecosystem. So we had to actually figure out what's the best model to start with, and then build along the line. So that's what it is, and it's something closer to the fifth generation kind of a model, if you wish. Okay, so now the question for each of you, maybe also for each of the department head and also the so-called the Office of Research Innovation, which model describes your R&D program or your innovation program, right? So it could be in first generation, it could be third generation, it could be the fifth generation, right? So you have to decide where you are and then where you want to go to. Okay. And this is just I just took the latest from the so-called the internet, and it's a good reference to read in the HBR, Harvard Business Review. the Harvard Business School and whatnot, and the Sloan Business School from MIT, typically give a good reference about innovation model, innovation process. So in fact, when I was in Motorola, I was looking in terms of how do I so-called multiply the so-called output of research activity when I was in Motorola. So I read the the Harvard Business Review, and I found this so-called new concept called problem broadcasting. So it's not broadcasting as the way that you know what broadcasting is. It's about broadcasting a problem, right? So if you can Google, and there's actually back then there was a so-called one of the MBA student, Lakami, I forget his first name, that kind of work along the area. Hey, you have to broadcast a problem so that people can give their ideas to solve your problem, right? Then you start to see all this what we call the organization like Innocentive. Some few organizations that are drive towards what's called crowdsourcing for innovation ideas. So that's how I got started into this innovation management back then. Well, I was hired in Motorola to lead the mechanical engineering, by the way. My previous job before I came to KICT, I was in Motorola two-way radio in Penang. And basically in Penang, the Motorola organization, about 1,000 engineers. We're proud to say that we not just manufacture, not just design, we also conceptualize a lot of two-way radio, walkie-talkies, or the base station for all of the Motorola customers globally. In fact, we have shut down a lot of sites globally. We shut down Poland, we shut down China, we shut down Berlin sites so that all the work will come to Malaysia. So that's how they grow in Malaysia. So basically, these are different, so-called, types of innovation, breakthrough innovation. So you have to look in terms of to compare between how well you understand the problem and how well the domain technology, required to solve the problem. So you have to pick the different, innovation model. Yeah. Typically, you more in terms of sustaining innovation, you do road mapping. So once you know what are the markets, what are the different trends for the market over the 3, 5, 10 years, for example, you create a roadmap, right? And you build your innovation and projects, your R&D towards building the roadmap portfolio. So that's more into sustaining innovation, right? Then I prefer, I think the most important part is either you do a breakthrough research or disruptive innovation. So breakthrough more towards, you do a skunk works, and this is what I like the most when I was in Motorola. Though we are given headcount to do product development, and I have a small group of people that actually are dedicated for technology research, but you never have enough resources to do skunk works. So what I do, I quote-unquote hide resources, where we do some planning. So we do some sort of for 100% resources, you budgeted for 120%. So you get 20% extra for people to do skunk work, but never have to be reported, right? And it just basically, maybe today, 4 hours a week do this work, and continue 4 hours every week. And skunk works basically you don't have really registered as a real project. It's never registered as a project. It's more in terms of I know, and just get the work done. So you do so you figure out who has what material you need. Hey, can I have some of your component? Can I borrow your testing? So you never really make a real project yet or official project. It's just to get your idea tested. Yeah. And typically also back in the university we do that before you apply for big grants. This is also some of the trick that I start to tell a lot of researchers. If you have a lot of money for your grant, this particular project, for example, save some and do some skunk work for your future grants, right? So, but you don't have to report what you have done for your future grant, because then you're kind of seeding through. Conceptually it could work, and it's just that when you apply for the grant, you say, "Well, I'll start from scratch," assuming, assuming that you don't do anything yet. So those are kind of a skunk work activity that you do. It could be a breakthrough and disruptive, not really disruptive innovation, but in terms of breakthrough that you can get from skunk work. It's closer to the discovery as well. I mean, sometimes you stumble into something that you don't know. For example, when I got my patent for the self-healing coating, it's basically a double helix structure based on conductive polymer, polyaniline and polypyrrole, right? Collaboration together with the chemistry department. And the whole idea is how do you create and we call equipotential surface? Because in corrosion you have anode and cathode, right? So the only way to have no corrosion is there's no anode, no cathode, everything equipotential surface. So that was the whole idea. And I was like, oh, that's a crazy idea. Okay, fine, let's go and figure it out. How do you get to the crazy ideas, right? So you play around different materials, blah, blah, blah. And no, I got a patent while I was doing my postdoc. Yeah, correct, yeah. After I leave the university, I don't know whether it got commercialized or not. So, I know that, even until now, there are a lot more work being pursued globally on those, so-called polyaniline kind of self-healing coating. Yeah, connecting polymer for corrosion, protection. Yeah. So it's funny because we just playing around with the coating and put on. Typically, you have aluminum. You put in seawater, you have all this white rust that you see, right? And then we just happen to say, well, let's try the idea because we know that there's some in the conductive polymer. It's not I call it dead polymer. It's basically it's active polymer. So there is some electron transfer happening in the conductive polymer. So, and we think theoretically there should be some electron transfer between the polymer and the base metal, right? So we say, okay, let's try the idea, see whether it works. Then we put it on one day. We coat it and then we do a scratch. Because the whole idea to how do you prevent corrosion for the on metals in salt water. Then we put a scratch, typical test, you do a coating, you put a scratch and put in the salt water. One day, no. Typically, they do comparison. Typical coating, one day you already have the white stuff coming out at the scratch area. So we thought something wrong. What do we do? There's no corrosion at all. So so even after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we kept it for like months, there's no corrosion. So that's how we got into that pattern and granted by the US. It take them a while to grant it, about 5-6 years to grant it. Yeah. So those are the kind of so-called basic research or so-called discovery research that we do. Basically, just focus on fundamentals. We think that should work, fundamentally, and then try it out. It was never part of a big project anyhow. But I think from after that, the professor managed to secure bigger grants from the so-called SCAN works. That's how we do things. And in fact, my research work from during my master was not funded. Basically, we just happened to get equipment and do some testing for companies. And from my work, we're doing work in terms of using impedance for composite. We managed to secure a large grant from Office and Naval Research US, and basically fund about 4 or 5 masters and PhD students. I was asked to become the so-called coordinator and do whatever I want. So that I was happy, that I don't have to actually pay anybody back. So that's how I got my PhD. All right. So these are the different models. You can take a look and you can apply this in different stages of your research. You don't have to use everything the same way. And when you just have your initial idea discovery, you can pick different model of doing it, right? As you kind of build your platform, build your so-called your market. Let's say, for example, you decide that for IIUM you want to serve, let's say, for example, the retail market, just for the sake of discussion, or the transportation market. Then you build some solutions that are, not yet available. As you build that solution, you also have to continue enhancing. So this is more like, how do you do, a continuous improvement of your idea. So that will go more of a sustaining innovation. Yeah. Okay. So now you have an idea in terms of the different model, how to innovate, how to do research, and how to actually, drive your ideas towards something that scientific term we call it, you create a hypothesis and whether you validate or invalidate your hypothesis. But mostly the SCAN work does that, right? You validate or invalidate, and that could be already got a paper before you actually got a grant. So, and that's typically how I got my PhD fast. I did my PhD in 2.5 years because I have papers before I actually got the so-called well, I have papers, but we have not published it before we got the so-called grant. Drivers of innovation. So what are the things you need to understand driving innovation in certain areas that are, been talked, in a global level or even local level? Look at mega trends. What are the things that are, in need for solutions, right? This is from PwC and also World Economic, World Economic Forum. Rapid urbanization, right? People from kampong area, from villages area, everybody want to come to the city, look for more job opportunities. But I'm not sure whether they're right or wrong. I'm not here to comment, but I think, rather than make it more smarter cities, maybe make smarter villages, right? Could be one way of doing it. Demographic social changes in terms of they're probably different. They're more, depend on the countries. Some countries have more older people, 40 to 60 years old, aging population. Malaysia don't have that problem so much. We have both aging and young population, no issue. A lot of the Western countries, the Japanese, Korean has a lot more aging population. So now the demand for healthcare is increasing, right? Technology breakthrough in terms of IoT, in terms of all the different communication method. Shifting global economic power. So you're not talking about US anymore, you're talking about China, you're talking about Russia, you're talking about India, you're talking about Brazil as could be the economic power. So that's shifting in everything, right? So and climate changes and resource scarcity, food access, right? I guess if you are in Malaysia or you are in Penang, whatever, food is never a problem, right? Water is never a problem. But you go further deeper into the rural area of Pahang or Sarawak, people don't even have clean water, right? So sometimes we take for granted, in Malaysia, everybody got access to clean water, but not necessarily. I'll talk more about that later on. Then all this global race, weather events, all this, and migration. So these are the trends that you need to understand. And what is the impact in terms of the way that people do things, people living, right? Health issues. These are opportunities that you need to understand that can help drive your innovation or research areas, right? So a lot of reading to be done, and that's what research is. You do a lot of reading first, right? And you can read Thomson Reuters in terms of their prediction in the world in 2035. It said dementia will decline. Okay. So how do you do that? So they're basically giving the end state, right? So one way to actually drive innovation also by define what's the end state that you don't have now. So you give another 10 years, there will be no more people with dementia, right? You can prevent diabetes. Right now, we have diabetes type 1, type 2, right? So how do you prevent diabetes? How do you make sure that, newborn, with the parents with diabetes do not have diabetes? How do you do that, right? DNA mapping, so that we, for a kid, for a childbirth, so that you can manage the disease risk, right? So now you know that potentially, before you have a newborn, these are potential so-called diseases that the child can have based on your genome, based on the eating habits, based on the lifestyle, right? Based on the environment. What if you can do that? You know that already, so that you're prepared in what path to take, right? So these are all the predictions. Cancer treatment, with refute toxic effect, maybe even to predict, cancer early, right? Right now, most cancers in Malaysia are only been discovered at stage 3, stage 4. I have 5 cancer, cases in my own family. 2, resulted in death. 2 survive, and 3 survive, and both male and female has cancers, right? Different cancers, right? So what if you can predict, your own genome, understand what are potentially cancer that you can get based on your, genome, based on your, family history, right? So that would be nice, right? Digital, everything, everywhere. Yes, great. I mean, solar. So how do you not depending on the so-called petroleum for your energy, right? Just use solar, right? So I see I was on the way back from, I think it was Tuesday. I was coming back from KL to Subang Airport, taking LRT. And I think somewhere in Damansara there's a big hub for all the train, LRT and whatnot. And there's a lot of so-called, roofs that kind of, on top of the train station. Not used for anything else, just roof, right? We have a lot of roofs everywhere, and every building has roof, right? So why not take advantage of that? So it's nothing new that you have to create. It's you already have the infrastructure, right? Electric air transportation takes off. I think you're talking about teleportation. I'm not sure about teleportation. So something I cannot even imagine just yet. So I'm worried if you do that, you will get something else on the other end, right? So yeah. Petroleum-based packaging, his history, everything cellulose-based, right? But now cellulose-based are not strong enough. There's a lot of, it's biodegradable, but it's not, doesn't have the strength of typical petrol-based plastic, right? If you take a plastic bag these days, it can take a lot of weight. But if you go with a polylactic acid-based or cellulose-based, you're not going to have that strength yet. But what if you can design a cellulose that is strong even at the so-called plant level, right? I even sometimes joke with the people who works in a MPOB or not. Can you make your a palm tree not to be as tall, because if you can make like a durian tree that's a short, so I don't have to go and figure out and waste break my back when I have to go and plow the palm, right? So I guess so far there's no solution yet. So you have to have all this biotech people, right? Food shortage, food price, right? Fluctuation. So how do you make sure there's enough food for everyone, right? If you any Star Trek fan here, come on, don't be shy. I'm a Star Trek fan. Star Wars, no, Star Wars is one. Star Trek, where you do the food processor, right? Computer, give me coffee. So it just talk to the computer and then you get coffee. Actually, there's no coffee there, and they just make coffee for you, right? Out of thin air. I don't think so, but something along that line, right? So these are all the so-called the wish lists, and in fact, this is actually what I did also in Motorola when I learned about the problem broadcasting. And I said, guys, let's go and create so we go and get this big so-called banner, empty one, use the riverside, and we draw a tree and get people to submit what is the problem they want to solve, or what is their wish list they want us to work on. Us mean either within Motorola or outside Motorola. So we have that list for so we said the top 5 best ideas that are going to be voted going to win some money. So we give them like some incentive, 500 ringgit, 200 ringgit, 100 ringgit, blah blah. And that was a nice thing because I can use that list and to drive research topic within the company and outside the company, and give some topic to universities for the next 3 to 4 years. And they say, well, let's revive that after 2 to 3 years and get more new ideas or more new challenges. And just asking people to tell you the problem, but you need to be sure that everything will keep confidentiality and whatnot, and also reward them for telling the problems, and tell them, okay, if I have somebody willing to take your problem, and I will inform you. The project is already have a taker, so it's a part of that I started in Motorola. So that's how I got into this so-called open innovation process or open innovation concept. While I was still in Motorola, I was in my year 2, year 3 in Motorola. After 4 years, they decided that I'm not good enough to stay in research, and they put me to do something else. While I was doing some strategic initiative for the company after 4 years. So this is how you drive your so-called research thinking, right? In terms of what are potential projects you can work on by envision, or maybe look at in terms of how people envision the future, right? They will drive you probably research, not like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 5 years your research program, right? Okay. Something closer to home, I suppose. There are all these reports being made. There are industry, the 4th industrial revolution, I guess the talk of the town today, KPT is talking about that, right? Okay, so never mind. They ought to know what are opportunities available in the fourth industrial revolution. And then there's Industry 4.0. Anybody know what's the difference? Care to explain? From your understanding, is it two of the same thing or related or not related at all? There's Industry 4.0 and then there's a fourth industrial revolution. All has the so-called number 4, right? And both have industry. One say revolution, one is in, you're there. So basically, the fourth industrial revolution is about cyber-physical systems interactions. It's probably the bigger umbrella compared to just the Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 basically stay in the realms of manufacturing. It's not just manufacturing. If you're familiar with the Toyota productivity system, people think Toyota productivity system is only about manufacturing. They're wrong. They only read the title. They do not read actually the whole process thinking about TPS. Actually, it goes all the way to the design and supply chain, right? So I think you have to, people when people hear all this jargon, all this so-called naming convention, that's probably the talk of the town, or maybe the trendy so-called naming of that season or that year or whatever. Good to understand what is it encompasses, right? So the bigger umbrella is fourth industrial revolution is about how are you digitalizing everything that you know now, right? Even perhaps to pick what shirt to buy tomorrow, you don't even have to go to supermarket. Yeah, I think some of that has been given some preview years ago. But perhaps this is probably even more now because with the Alibaba, with the Amazon, with the Lazada, Zalora, whatever you call them, and if you go to supermarkets these days, you go to shops these days, less people go there to buy things, right? You only go there to test. Well, this is probably a good watch for me to test all the functions. Thank you very much. Then I go back to look. Don't even have to walk out from the shop. I just take out my phone and say, "Oh, Zalora is cheaper. Lazada is cheaper." So then I say, "Are you going to buy?" No, I'm going to buy online. Yeah. So and I think the retail, as you know it today, probably going to go away, right? So watch out those guys in retail. But I think there are still business opportunity for the retail shop. Perhaps just a kind of a place for people to pick up. Just like a mailbox, right? So people have to think about, hey, if all this, fourth industrial revolution, what will change? Will I lose my business? Yes, they will lose your business if you stay the way you are right now, right? So this is some of the innovation, right? Not necessarily in the technical innovation, but in the business innovation, right? So innovation does not stay. I mean, for Apple, for example, they don't own any technology before. Only now they start to buy technology companies. Apple is not a technology company when they first started, right? It's all about business model. iPhone is not about the technology. It's about how do you deliver solutions to the customers with the apps and whatnot, right? So these are different things. All right. So these are the things, the talk of the town now in terms of the National Industry 4.0 policy. They're gonna have this established before end of the year, and then in terms of we hope that the government hope that can increase the manufacturing GDP probably twice from where it is right now. So what are the issues here? The issues are typically adoptions, because it's quite expensive. How do you make it more affordable, right? So these are some of the challenges. So these are the things that you can Google and you can look at all the government document. If there's a talk by whoever from the government or non-government, go and attend. I think there's a lot of conferences these days, a lot of forums talking about this, and go and get yourself educated and understand what opportunities within your own research areas, right? So you need to somehow align what you do technically or business-wise, and whatever your domain area is. Could be ICT, could be engineering, could be business, and that supports this kind of initiative. There's an opportunity for everybody, right? There's no issue there. Okay. How am I doing on time? The problem is you give me mic, then I have problem to stop until you tell me that I have 10 minutes. All right. I think this is something that our ASM has put together, I guess part of TNVT, try to envision Malaysia 2050, right? So look at that in terms of, super smart grid of renewable energy. So maybe no need to use anymore the petroleum-based energy, right? Everything is distributed energy from the solar, from the vibration, from anything that are non-petroleum based. So basically, no more Petronas as you know it today, I guess, right? So then people said, no, tak payah, no need to worry about minyak naik ke minyak turun, tak payah nak buat dosa marah ke orang tu kan. So so when the fuel goes up and fuel goes down, they start to blame that one guy. And fuel goes down, and they will say, Alhamdulillah, thank you very much, All right, hypersonic airliners, yeah, could be. So a whole series of transportation, space travel. They're talking about autonomous sports. If you Google so-called Elon Musk, the Hyperloop, right? And I wish I have Hyperloop from Penang to Unimap, for example, in Perlis, right? So because you can only take the train to Arau, but from Arau to Pau, there's no you have to drive. So these are the changing the way people mobilize themselves. And do we need to even own a car? Right? So it's not just the physical things that are move people around. It's in terms of the so-called the whole concept of owning a car versus not owning a car, right? So like for example, when I'm in KL, I don't even drive, right? Of course, I fly from my home, in Penang to KLIA or Subang. Then I took the ERL. I got to so-called KL Central. Of course, I had to walk to the hotel a little bit exercise, right? At this age, 5 series, so you have to walk a little bit. Then in the morning, you either call for a taxi, call over, and get whatever you want, right? So, do you really need to have, let's say, you have 5 people in your home, at least 4 cars, or whatever? Maybe you don't, right? But the issue is right now the accessibility to the public transport is not there, especially in Penang. So in KL, probably better, right? So it changed the way how you do things. So these are some opportunities even for the researchers to say which part of the so-called solution that have been envisioned that you can contribute, right? So you can look in terms of energy management, how do you do the space travel, medicine, right? So we are moving from you have to go to hospital to get a treatment. Why? Nak pergi jumpa doktor. Sorry, I have to use English, I guess. Some non-Malay speaking. You have to go make an appointment to see a doctor. You go there at the registration. I don't know how many hours you have to wait. Then you have to go to a long queue. Unless you go there like 6:30 in the morning, then probably you get the first 10 in the queue. You get there like 8 o'clock. You're probably gonna wait until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just to get yourself to be weighing, measure your blood pressure, and somebody to ask you, how are you feeling today? Do you have coughing? Of course I'm coughing. I'm coughing in front of you, right? So what if you don't have to be at the hospital to get all this so-called, doctor, time, right? Right? And perhaps don't even have to go to the pharmacy at the hospital to get your medication. Somebody can send it to you, or whatever, right? Something along the line. So it changed the way that how you get yourself, treated and whatnot. And perhaps maybe even go away from healthcare to wellness care, right? So this is something need to be moved about. Energy harvesting, AI and everything. So everything autonomous, right? You don't have even to think anymore. So you go home and the kitchen know what you want to eat, so the kitchen will cook for you. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that's logical, but just to be a little bit more of a far-fetched and think beyond what's possible, right? So, but by the way, there already a chef robot already been. If you Google robots that cook, yes, there is. You can hire a robot that can cook now, right? And so it's not too far away, right? So now you can just telepathically tell the robot that I'm thinking like a pasta today, and tomorrow maybe asam pedas, So you come home, everything's ready on the dinner table. But that will create other problems, I suppose, right? the social problems. Why do I need to get married? And why not? All right. So these are all the different opportunities that can drive your research area. So you have to pick which one, right? And something for you to to think and ponder about it. All right. Once you know that, sometimes all the statement they give, or motherhood statement, they give you kind of solve the world hunger kind of statement. But you're only doing research only in the area that you could do within your own capacity or within the funding that you have, right? So you need to limit yourself, the scope of work. And we've been running a lot of this boot camp and ideation challenges, with students now for the last 4 or 5 years. And we give them a challenge statement. They take the challenge statement as is. Don't even do further thinking about what is the problem to solve. So when they're doing some pitching, they present it. Oh, I'm gonna create this so-called robots, on wheels that can move from one place to another, can pick up all the different metal debris and put into the container. Okay. Are you going to do everything by yourself from scratch? Yeah, I'll do that. What is your timeline? 3 months. Oh, okay. So which part exactly are you going to be working on for your particular project and the rest you're going to buy? Oh, we thought you can finish all in 3 months. Okay. So sometimes the scoping bit need to be very, very, very clear, and also what is specific problem to resolve. Sometimes only, or the whole solution, maybe there's one particular technology you have to develop. So you have to define that particular problem, right? So more problem definition, right? So I'm going to tell a story about you solving the right problem. My favorite subject, because I was hired. My first job when I was hired was with Motorola, and we take pride of. I guess some of you guys have watched Dynasty, Larry Hackman, so this big phone, yeah, Dallas, yeah. It's like a fashion statement those days. You have this big phone on your so-called coffee table, and people, wow, what is that? It's a mobile phone. Yeah. And how much it costs? $3,995. You can probably buy with this conversion. Instead, probably buy maybe a portion of a country car or whatever. Right? That's how much it costs these days. So Motorola is the first inventor and first company that actually has a mobile phone. Anybody still using Motorola phone, by the way? You still do? Wow. Oh, no, okay. Huh? They now called Moto. They don't have Motorola brand anymore. Called Moto. They take the roller out. But it's no longer owned by Motorola, by the way. It was first bought by Google, now owned by Lenovo. And Lenovo, by the way, is not IBM company. It's a China company. So the Lenovo, brand and Moto brand, the Motorola phone brand, is owned by Chinese company. That's how pathetic that is now, right? So you brand all like European, American, but it's owned by Chinese. Yeah. Okay. So Alibaba, a Malay name, but it's not a Malaysian company, by the way. That's for 1983, right? So so like 1 year before I did my SPM, so this is how the first mobile phone. Then they come this 1989 is Microtech. So 1989 I'm still studying, and this is still expensive I think at that time. So a smaller flip phone, right? So at that time I think the flip phone also quite I think maybe you can really also in Malaysia mostly have Ericsson cheaper, boleh beli lah cheaper sikit Ericsson. And this basically you can put in your pocket. And it have flip design, and I think it's a small display, right? So they kind of wow, great thing happening in Motorola. Then they have their a break in their career or in their life, whatever, or their presence, or of Motorola phone. It's called Razr. Wow, I think if you see the Razr commercial, you throw the Razr at the door and then just stick like that, right? It's so small and thin and sharp, right? Tak lah juga, I mean, just itu commercial lah. So that's commercial. In real fact, if you try to throw at the door, probably will bounce back, right? And the size is so thin, and the dual display. So you got the main display and also the second display, right? And at that time was 2004. That's a big thing, and they're making a lot of money. I think at that time they are probably the top I think they got 25% of the market share. Probably the biggest they get ever. Now, what market share? I don't know. I think they're not even in the top 5 list, whatever. No more, right? So Razer V3, and they have mini USB jack and whatnot. So these are great that came from Motorola. And by the way, the story goes, they don't even know how they get into this. There was not through any kind of particular innovation process to get to this. It's just by chance they got into this. So a lot of discovery, a lot of, right? And they cannot replicate this. They cannot replicate the process of creating a product like Razer. No, cannot. They have a second version of Razer called Rocker, if you remember. A kind of a slimmer version of the Razer, right? And you know why? Because of what? Just inside story. Because it wanted to serve Asian phone users. They think Asian users don't like small phone. So if you take a phone about 2/3 of the width of that, it's very feel weird when you hold that phone, right? And this is again, in people who does the industrial design. The form factor has certain, when you hold something, it has to grip in your hand, right? If your phone is like 2/3 the size, like you have to really put your hand together. It's like holding your torchlight, right? So it kind of threw everything off, and that was one part of the boo-boo that they did. The other part because they think because this is selling. So when they make the so-called Rocker, the third dimension of the Razer, they also build inventory with the hope that you're going to sell. That's another bad, I guess, planning from Motorola side. And because of that also, and they didn't sell, and then they end up with a lot of inventory and make a loss. And that's how it gets started to go down the hill. Anyhow, so this is a great product. Then came along this guy called, the good old Steve Jobs. Then came iPhone, right? Look at the phone at that time. So look at all the Motorola phones at this time. Keypads, everything keypad, right? We all know everything by keypad. Those days, QWERTY keypad and all these numbers. This is the first time I think you have a phone that without a keypad. I also one of the guys that don't like this. Wow, what happened to my keypad? No keypad. How do I press the numbers? I need to have the feeling of I'm pressing something, right? I need to have the haptic pressing something, right? Yeah. So what did people say? So these are some of the comments that you can, still find it on the internet if you Google it. So touchscreen buttons, bad idea. This thing will never work. Wow. Wow. An update to the Rocker. Cool. Oops. Awkward. Because no keypad. Guess who said this? Motorola guys, right? Then what? Let's see what happened. What did it do? Oh, maybe that's a good idea. So then we go from the queue and in the queue, whatever, without the keypads, right? So they missed the boat. So the story of Apple, they're not about technology guys. They tried to do a lot of, they call it observation study, understand the behavior of the users. They spend a lot of time. If you look in Google, Apple, so-called history, they hire a lot of people that, not even engineers, people in the anthropology, people in the understanding human behavior, social sciences, whatnot, to understand how people use mobile phone. And try to create demand that they don't know they need. It's not asking, what do you need for your new phone, ma'am? Do you need to be bigger? Those are the questions you don't ask when you try to, innovate new product. You do a lot of observation study and look at behaviors, right? And, since then, Motorola have learned, and we send people to go to supermarket, for example, or stay in the department store to look at how people, we are in the two-way radio business, how people use two-way radio, right? If you happen to see sometime I'm not sure here, but in Japan or in some of the shop, you go to a sushi place, the lady sometime, the one that serves wearing kimono, right? And they're using Motorola two-way radio, and it's sticking out like a bat saw with an antenna at the back of the kimono, right? So wow, all this, now very nice, looking lady wearing kimono, and they communicate. They have to press the button, and the antenna sticking out. Very big, phone, so-called two-way radio, right? So, and this is the kind of thing that Apple's ahead of of the rest. They go and introduce this so-called, I think, maybe design thinking or behavior study how people utilize the current devices and improve, right? And study people, we talk more in terms of later on, like transportation, for example. People want just to get to one place to another place. That's the main objective in life, right? I want to go from point A to point B. How do I get there? I don't care. Just get me to point A to point B. If you can teleport me lah, right? Scotty, beam me up, Scotty kan? Yang suka Star Trek tu lah. Beam me up, Scotty. So, I guess, you have to be ahead and you have to know so you have to create the demand. So this is partly, the innovation where understanding what people need without they even realizing it. And not asking them the question, can you tell me what do you want next year? What do you want to have in your car next year? Yeah? Do you want to have 5 wheels? So, or you want to have 3 wheels car? I think there are 3 wheels car, right? So, okay, so I think something that I just want to share is, good for you to check this Synex Golden Circle in terms of when you do things, you need to know first why you do something, right? Sometimes you say, well, I just want to do this. Why? Well, let me figure out, why do I have to do this? It's really important to understand why people need something, right? Is it, saving lives? Is it improving the way of doing things? Improve the cost, right? And then you figure out what do we have to deliver, and then only the how, right? Sometimes we figure out to do the how first, then they figure out, oh, why do we do this? Huh? So you have to ask the question. I mean, remember I think in engineering there's a study called, to ask why, right? I think along the line as we have kids, don't ask me why anymore. 2 whys enough. Don't ask until 5 whys. So so these are very important to keep asking why before you go in terms of what do people want, and then only the how to get there. Yeah, and basically, what did for Apple, it's about they want to create a dent in the universe. I'm not even that's logical, right? But it's like a very big why. I want to create a dent in the universe. That's how he drives things. Okay, all right. So that kind of give you a little bit of perspective in terms of why is it important to solve the right problem, right? Sometimes just from the net, because one product looks good, and you think maybe make product smaller, and perhaps the Japanese could have a better innovation that the phone are in your teeth. Whatever, I don't know. So it's a joke. It's a joke. What if you can have a phone without having to hold a phone, right? You can talk to yourself and whatnot. Okay. So some innovation that solve customer problems. I think you probably know some of this. What problem does Uber and Grab solve? Right? Commuting problem, right? Without having to drive your own car, without having to own a car, right? And we don't even have to get a receipt from the driver, right? Because sometimes they just put the numbers that you don't even know what it is, and without having to haggle the price, right? I used to before the I think it was a Grab, I think my taxi before the Grab. I used to have meetings in Damansara area, have to go to Subang Airport, and to catch 8 o'clock flights at like 5 o'clock. So you go to the next the curve and look for a taxi stand. Say, yeah, I need a cab to go to so-called Subang Airport. 50, 50 ringgit. It's a short distance. But now you go use Uber, how much? Less than 20 ringgit. Maybe 15, 14 ringgit, right? A consistent price everywhere, right? And I don't have to worry about losing my receipts. Right? And I can know exactly where, my wife can know exactly where I am, because they can also, get into the apps and figure it out. Or, if you want to send somebody, deliver something to the person, you can also use Uber, right? You can also get the Uber or Grab to pick up your daughter or your kids from school and then bring them back home, right? And in fact, one time in Penang, my wife was at home, the car parked, and there's no electricity, and then the gate are basically electrically driven, so I cannot get the car from, and she has to pick up the daughter in the afternoon. So I call Uber, hey, I need you to take me, and then I'll go to my daughter's school, stop at a shop, buy food, and then send her back to home, and then go back in less than 20 ringgit. Right? So that's convenient, isn't it? So it's solving the commuting problem without having to own a car, without having to worry about, hey, I have to go to the nearest taxi stand to look for taxi. Right? So this is the problem. I think there are more things is coming along the line. Personal health. I'm not sure you heard about this. Anybody have heard about this? Digitized stethoscope. Using sound to actually to record sound, so that you can so basically it's IoT devices, basically pick up your heartbeat, and even if your daughter understand that when daughter are tired, their listening ability are not as good, right? They just put there and say, well, okay lah, the mom good. So in this case, they can actually capture your so-called your heartbeat, and also can capture your systolic, diastolic, and all that, right? And can be viewed by yourself, can be viewed by daughter, right? And they can capture this and give you a trend, right? In fact, also so stay tuned. It's going to be launched by the DG, around September. Product invented by doctors, by the way. Couple of doctors, brothers and two brothers from Australia. It's going to be manufactured in Malaysia. Yeah. So it's going to be a global launch around September. So just stay tuned. And but if you in a hurry, you can Google Datuk Nur Hisham Facebook. You can see some of these have been mentioned in his Facebook, right? So this is an innovation that we will help deliver, and it's also good for kids because then they say, hey, I can listen to my heartbeat, right? Unless you don't have heartbeat, what happens? So this is some of the about. So you don't have to go and wait like hours to see a doctor just for the doctor can listen to your heart, how you breathe, right? Now you can say, hey doctor, let me put a steady on my, and then you can take a look. You can even play back the audio sound, right? So you don't have to drive, or you don't have to get on Uber even to go to see doctor. You say, I just stay home. You tell me what condition I'm in right now, right? Okay. Or maybe something closer to the educationists, educators, right, and teachers. No pun intended, nothing. Just tell it as it is. So, do we need to send kids to school anymore? With all these, look at the bottom right-hand side, right? With Udemy, with Coursera, Udacity, Khan Academy, EDX, whatnot. Do you think we should send our kids to school just because we have to send the kids to school? What if they can get, one-on-one with the teachers, right? They do their own assignment, and still, they can get personalized learning, probably even cheaper. Don't have to pay the price of all the private universities, right? And maybe come to class just to socialize or to have discussion, right? And lowering the cost of education, and you get more time to spend to do research. Don't have to worry about not have to teach class every day because they're supposed to do their own learning, right? And we don't want to spoon feed our students anymore, right? Otherwise, they wait until they come to class. Okay, the teacher is going to teach me today. When I went to university, sometimes I go to class and then the notice on the board say, go and check in front of my door. Then you go to the door of the lecturer's office, say, read this page. And then it said, in next class, you will have a quiz. So the different way of learning, right? So you give assignments and you expect them to do self-learning, and then if they don't know, they don't understand, then in the class you ask questions, you assess by whether you can do the assignment or not, right? So different way of doing things. So I'm just, no pun intended, just, different way of doing things. So I think, perhaps I should say this to the Ministry of Higher Education or something like that, or Ministry of Education, right? And by the way, some of these guys are linking very closely with the likes of Google and all these big companies and with the universities. And they're changing the way that the so-called education should behave, right? So things are changing. So you don't have to even go to school anymore to learn. You can probably stay home, or you can stay at a kampung area, and with all the internet connectivity, no issue. You can still get some good education, right? Okay, so I think that's kind of give you a gist in terms of solving problems, fundamental problems that are improves the way we do things, give us more free time. You don't have to do things not necessarily just to see a doctor. You have to travel like hours and wait in queue, and sometimes because you have to wait for a doctor, your blood pressure goes up, right? And it's true. Sometimes because you're nervous, you see a doctor, your blood pressure goes up, and then they say, "Oh, your BP is up today." I say, "No, my BP has been good all week." No. I just measured it. Your BP is up. Yeah, I think because I'm nervous, I'm meeting you today, right? So what if he can measure your BP without having the presence of the doctor, and he can have the say, "Oh, your BP is good," right? So you don't need continue with medication or reduce your medication, right? Just to go see a doctor, just to say, I think you should reduce your medication. And sometimes it's a false alarm because your heartbeat went up and said, "Oh, you stick. Maybe increase your medication." Oh, that's the bad diagnostic, right? So these are things that that kind of improve the solutioning to the problems that are real problems and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit in terms of demand-driven, customer-centric innovation, something closer to what we're doing. So I guess that's what it feels like when you're doing a customer demand-driven innovation. So that's the teeth of the boa or crocodile, right? As you get closer to the market, you're getting closer to the stomach of the crocodile, right? And the teeth are, the opening of the mouth crocodile is widened in the front, and then they're getting, so things are getting tougher, right? As you get closer to the market, right? That's the reality. I mean, we work in the industry, and as project gets closer to delivery, 24/7, right? Morning calls, afternoon calls, night calls, next morning calls again, right? Weekend, the VP of engineering from Chicago will call you. How are things? I mean, you are sitting down with your family and whatnot. Can you solve this one problem that's still not solved yet? That's how it feels, going down to closer to market as ideation, define, design, and develop, right? So as you get more to the left-hand side, it's more free. You are more can be more creative. As you get, you're supposed to be more creative, but because of you're under pressure, you are getting less creative. That's what happened. All right. In terms of the what we have been doing in CREST, partly also my kind of life journey. How do you drive towards more market-driven innovation? So as I mentioned earlier, you need to understand what the market is, right? On the right-hand side. So how you read this chart is not from left to right. You have to read from right to left. Yeah? And even when we do project management, we apply, I learned what we call goal-directed project management. You chart your project management from right to left, not from start to finish. You chart from finish to start. Say, oh, that's illogical. What are you using, Arabics? You're not using a standard Latinos, way of writing things. No. You need to define first what you want, or what are the problems to solve, and then work your way back, right? And you just have to have that in your mindset. Inshallah, everything goes fine, right? So don't read from left to right. Left to right just for graphical purpose, but you have to read from right to left. But you don't read that way. You read bottom. So first, identify what are the challenges, what the market needs, right? Once you do that, then you start to drive by doing research, innovation, whatever, hackathon, do whatever you want, right? You can get a bunch of young students and whatnot to actually ideate some ideas, some solution for you, right? Some of your students, maybe you can introduce into your classroom, right? And, get them to solve problems, so real problems. So we do that in our program. And then perhaps, find some funders and whatnot to, how to translate the idea to proof of concept. something that's making workable. Very crude, doesn't have to be, looking complete, but show the functionality, right? From the POC, then you go to MVP, minimum viable product, where it's getting closer to market. This is where you need to get it to be not just functional, but also in the form factor, right? So these are the process steps, yeah? So these are basically the so-called the kind of a stage thinking. How do you want to drive your innovation? So understand first what is problem to solve. I'm just using 3 examples: transportation, healthcare, and food, right? So these are real problems that people have, right? Continue to have this problem, no issue, right? And you just have to figure out for the bigger problem, what are the small problems to solve, and work along that line, yeah. And then ideas, and typically the rule of thumb is you need about 3,000 ideas to get one successful product in the market to be successful as like a Google or whatnot. And this is in people IQ could be between 1,000 to 2,000, but roughly in the thousands before you get one good, or in the tens good ideas. So that's what need to drive more ideation, need to drive more hackathons. Doesn't matter how, you can call it whatever you want, but it's about driving ideation, right? And test the ideas and doing research what's already available, and don't do me too. Me too means that somebody can do that, I can do the same. Don't do me too, right? So tell your students and your researchers, I don't want to see me too. So you better do all your research. Google can tell you already what's available, right? So, yeah. Okay. So typically, I think from where we stand, we are the advantage of CREST because we are very close to the industry. For the big problems that we have at the top, the cluster problem, there's also specific technology domain areas problems. So you need to get down to technology domain specific, perhaps in the area of energy harvesting. So how do you harvest from, I don't know, from the vibration, everywhere, right? How do you make it, in a form factor that you can carry with you, depending on the size of the equipment, for example. How do you analyze data, right? How do you get more data, right? And if you're a simulation, you know this term, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Same thing with data analytics. If you get garbage data into your server, you analyze garbage. So you get a special garbage out, right? A new form of garbage, right? So to get a good data analysis and a good data, so therefore the sensing has to be correct, right? So you need to get the right sensors and whatnot, right? So this is if you're in the IoT space. So you need to understand the whole concept of, the people say the big market in IoT in the data analytics and the so-called apps. But if you measure wrong, you're sensing the wrong thing, you get nothing back, right? So those are the key you need to look at. So get down to the specific technology domain or specific technology to work on, because I think you guys are more with technology areas than you guys ICT or engineering. Specifically, what are the challenges in that particular technology that are used in particular product, for example, right? So that's what it is. Okay, some of the collaborative model. So once for CREST, I think this is probably something that can be applied by the Research and Innovation Office. How do you drive more engagement? So I think once you define the area you want to work on, in the cluster area or so-called market area or technology area, you create this engagement, right? You can participate in some of the CREST program that we conducted. I think other agencies also start to do the same thing now, have the kind of a multi-stakeholders, so-called engagement between industry and academia, and even sometimes the PRIs, and to share what are the common things that we can work together, and then define even a specific plan to work on. Maybe define projects. You don't have to be many-to-many engagement. Could be a smaller group, and that will kind of help to create in terms of a grouping. Because when you work in a group, you get a better better idea, right? And what are issues to solve. So we do that in our approach. And I always, because I'm a chemist in chemical engineering, whatnot, I always look in terms of molecules, how molecules behave. And in fact, do you know that water arranges themselves in a tetrahedral structures? They don't exist just by one molecule, right? There are interaction between the hydrogen and oxygen of the different water molecules. That's what makes them together, right? Water molecules together, right? And and this is one thing that we can learn from water molecules and make them stronger or make them more fluid. And triple helix DNA. So collaboration in multiple stakeholders is like this. It's complex, it's complicated, right? But if you get all the different components of the collaborators doing what they're supposed to do and know what their role in that collaboration, their role in life, you will get the benefit out of it, right? But of course, easy said than done. I mean, So so we are sharing you the journey. It's not something that's happened overnight. It's built from few players, and then we grow bigger, and we define more new areas, and just to show that it's a kind of a similarity of so-called a DNA, yeah. Okay, so I guess my point is we drive collaboration. We drive collaboration between industry, academia, and this is what we do. So you probably need to do something along the line. To, let's say, for example, you take position from where IIUM is. Maybe even internally you have different so-called schools or different research centers. You have to see whether you can drive the interdepartmental or so-called within your own organization first, and then bring the external element in. Then you can create more partnership, right? So this is so the more people collaborate, the better things are. Yeah. So just a little bit in terms of where we are, and I think we are blessed because people that come together that work with CREST, they are basically work on projects collaboratively, and they are formed. Some projects are mostly one-to-one nature, some are many-to-many, some one-to-many, one company, multiple industries, one industry, multiple companies, and there are cases that are multiple. So this is by different projects, yeah. And in fact, the beauty of what we do is all demand-driven, because it basically solve company problems or solve specific problems that the so-called the industry wants. So in this case, for example, the solar wafer crack detection system is basically got commercialized before they actually complete the so-called project. Our spending is only about less than 200,000 from CREST. And the product has gone to the market. So what they do is basically just looking at how do you do photoluminescence to actually visualize the crack in a solar wafer. Before that, it's everything done by taking a sample and then do a little bit of goyang-goyang with the crack it out. So actually you don't know whether there's a smaller crack inside the wafer. But using photoluminescence and imaging technique, they're able to do 100% testing. Basically reduce the defect, or kind of able to detect more defects in whatnot, improve the production capacity of the solar wafer company, and the company in Penang, and the value they have created already from the new modules from this so-called technology. They've been researched by with USM researcher in the range of I think last time we checked around 7 to 10 million already value. And that's basically the kind of value that it creates from this project. But not every project has the same kind of so-called return on investment, right? It's because it's depending on the technology readiness or not. This one particularly here, the visible light communication. How do you actually communicate, from your computer to the cloud using lights, right? For example, right? And basically you can much faster bandwidth, much wider bandwidth. It's still in the research area. So if you Google VLC. A product in the market, there's probably not many, maybe a handful globally, right? So this is again maybe still too far away from the TRL 7 or 9, probably in the range of 4 or 5, more in terms of proof of concept. So not every technology are ready to be adopted by the industry. So you need to invest a bit more, right? This one here, photonics are much earlier. And the second one, the Wi-Fi from TV White Space, also another project that we only spend less than 200,000, and it's already break even from the installation at UNIMAP. This is basically using the big so-called bandwidth, about 10 gigahertz, backbone. How do you extend it? Let's say another 30, 50 kilometers on campus or within, I think UNIMED campus are distributed, how you don't have to invest the backbone and allow this to be utilized. And basically from the research done by the UNIMED researcher and the company that they partner with, in fact, have a startup company. And that's basically already been noted for some projects in the range of 20, 35 million value that they're looking at, right? So again, really identify what the problems need to be solved. It's not about really the amount of spending. In fact, some of these projects spend more than these two projects probably. And in terms of how do you translate from research to the market, right? And the beauty of this project, because the partner is already a commercial company, they're already in that business. So they know how to take the technology to market. Same thing with the solar wafer crack. This is, the photonic for the water quality. The company is not in that business, they're just exploring. Right? They have quite a wide market space. They're trying to explore because they're already in the so-called photonics area, but they don't want to see what are new applications they can look at. So still, maybe a couple more iteration of what need to be done. The visible light communication. So this one has a startup company that works with the UNIMED, and this one here, the visible light communication, because of this project, they create startups to actually develop the visible light communication, right? So these are, again, how do you take the product to market? Not everything has to be by the researcher themselves. It could be by partnering the company and take the research out so the company can commercialize, so you don't have to worry about the headache, right, or doing it. It's also innovation. Innovation, how do you, I guess, commercialize your research output, right? Sometimes, no, we do only, matching grant. CREST don't do 100% funding. It's a matching grant, yeah. Yeah, so let me just quickly finish it off. So some of the value generation. So this is how we measure ourselves in terms of project value contribution from the company, our investment, savings from our revenue, and number of postgrads. So this is what we're doing for the different projects, even something that's not popular, like for example, how do you predict failure in electronic product? Not by doing the product, by designing everything on a computer. So before you actually to fabricate the product, you already have a model, and you see where it can fail, and then you remove the so-called the failure areas, redesign them, optimize them, then only you fabricate, and basically to improve how you design products that are will not fail in the market or in the testing area. Yeah. So I think our numbers are not too shabby. Looking in terms of the commercialization from the research output. Yeah. We think by this model that we have, we can have more of the research to go to market. Yeah. We also do a cluster program where this is many-to-many engagement. So this one has a bigger problem to solve. How to make Malaysia top 3 as a global LED producers. And the problem that we don't have is that epitaxy. This is what's defined in 2012, 2014. So that's what basically we say we need to work on this project to take Malaysia to top 3 globally. And this is by separate funding from the government plus the industry funding to work on the epitaxy. So we have one reactor now at UM, another reactor at USM, just to do that. And we go beyond. So the same material, we can go beyond LED. And if you are in the electronic, so-called field, what gallium nitride can do. Basically, it can improve in terms of your, connectivity, even to replace silicon for power device, and even give you the much faster, sort of communication. So when we decide to invest on particular technology, we also want to see how we can expand the leverage the technology that we invest, and see what else can you get from it. Yeah. So this is now. If you look in terms of the innovation, so-called types, this is becoming more of what we call from breakthrough research to go towards more of a road mapping. The top right hand quadrant where you do planning based on the technology. What other market can you go into, right? So you do a bit of a road mapping and do the application development based on the same technology or same material technology. So this is what we did, with the engagement to define what do we work on. All right, so the last bit is all this work does not go just well if we don't create the entrepreneurs, right? So part of what CREST is also a mandate is to drive the entrepreneur. network. So our mantra in our bootcamp is, what if, student can define your own career path. Rather than getting a job, you can either be your own boss or you can, pursue postgrad, right? So this is some of the profiles that we, always share. This is, we spotted, in the, Innovate program, back 2013, and decided that we award them with a, research grant. Actually, they pitched to us on their research proposal. And now the CEO himself is a PhD student, so he should be graduating this year, right? So basically, you are an entrepreneur and also you are also CEO and a PhD student. This guy, I met, when I was engaging before INTI, basically solving the water problem that are, people in Pahang, a rural area of Sarawak, that cannot have. And that, that girl named Mira passed away during the, study week, the exam week of in Ganesh Muran. So then he decided that he has to dedicate himself, on this area. And so-called startup a company called Sora Industries, and well-funded by some of the, big names in the industry. And now making helping out people in the rural areas, right? Not very high tech, but using some nanotechnology area for water purification, right? Make it affordable to the people in the rural area. And Darwin Reza, just to tease the student, you don't have to study 4 years straight. Take a year off and make your own company, something along that line, right? So we have a program we call Grand Design Challenge. So I've been doing this for 2 years now. So we involve also high school students, in fact. So we cover from IoT, manufacturing, medical device. In fact, today we are kicking off our second medical device bootcamp in UM. So we bring students in the university year 2 and year 3. So they got to know about the challenges, and they will ideate, and the winning ideas we go into the phase 2 Grand Design Challenge. There's a prototyping, they'll come back in November to showcase and pitch to the industry players. Yeah. So we also partner some universities, and more than happy to see that we can partner the IIUM. In fact, some of we call the alumni or TJL came from IIUM. And the winner, so this is our network of partners. So we involve companies, universities, and we involve also some agencies. So ini macam gotong royong lah. Orang tu bagi sikit, orang ni bagi sikit. Kami tak ada duit banyak. We don't have money. When we first start Crash, we have zero money, and we're able to pitch to the Economic Council to give us 100 million. So we also pitch most of the time to get funding. And here we are, working with the companies to pitch to them why they should be part of this program. And basically, some people, give, training, some people giving, workshops and whatnot, right? So different. So we pretty much all over the country now. Just also to share the winner of the first carnival, not because I'm coming here to IIUM that I put this up. It's a real guy. He's actually, just a year 3 student. So when he came with the team to the carnival, he was in year 2. So now in year 3, and he basically won a startup that's in your innovation hub, whatever. I think, he told me, because we also invite him, our recent bootcamp, he explained what he's doing. And I think his, a so-called solution has been tested. In fact, why he win, because he has already the solution tested and, proven working. When he did a pitch in I think for the last year carnival we did in January, and that's the main reason why he could win. And he also did a lot of work, tried to say, I have to be different from what's in the market. In fact, his solution, could be, similar like CTX. You probably heard about CTX from Dr. Mazlan. So he has to make sure that he does not duplicating what Dr. Mazlan has. So I think, so I think he's now nurturing this idea under the supervision of the innovation hub, whatever. And thank you very much. So what we do, we only have to nurture them, and then we don't have any more money after that. After that space, we don't have any more funding, so you have to fund their own funding. So the takeaway is focus on problem to solve, right? Really take the time and understand what is the problem, why, right? So ask that question, and then really define what is the unmet needs. That either they know or they don't know. Don't care. Don't care whether they know or they don't. Look at what is the unmet needs that you need to work on. And then the last 3 words, collaborate, innovate, and inshallah, disrupt. Disrupt the market, and maybe that's where you can make the most return of your investment. So with that, I I won't play the song. So there's a Miley Cyrus song. I like this song so much because it also has a good wording in terms of it's not the end point, it's the journey, it's the climb. So with that, thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, please, question. So.
We do have time for questions until 11:30. Sekarang berapa? 11:30. Okay, maybe one or two. Yeah, one or two pressing questions, and after that we will adjourn and we can have questions, perhaps outside of the formal, session. Right? Any questions?
I'm doing a R&D grant briefing at 2:30, so
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure.
So please do come at the Research Management Center conference room. That is the briefing on the CREST research grant. It is good for us to know what's all about, what it allows us, what the grant is looking for. It is only when we understand the grant can we actually see possibilities for ourselves. So I would like to thank Dr. Nur Azmi for his presentation. You've given a lot of ideas for us to think about. And maybe what I'd like to add is that I believe innovation does not recognize disciplines. You could be from the arts, you could be from the science backgrounds, but it needs for us to know what the problem is, and why we need to solve it, and then go on as to the how and what's. All right, thank you very much. Questions? Any questions? I know there are innovators in you right there. Yes.
How do you relate innovation with disciplines of Islamic studies?
I guess at the end of the day,
Would you like this?
Sorry. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's what are you, here for, right? I mean, as a Muslim or even non-Muslim, God placed you on the place there for one reason, to serve Him. Sometimes, Muslim, yes, we devote ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even any other religion, I mean, they whatever, God they're going to call, for themselves, is for one reason, to serve humanity or to serve God, right? So you have to make good. So your innovation has to do good, not to create, things that will make things worse. For the rest. So I think that's very key in terms of when you innovate to improve what's already available, right? So I guess, in the days where there's no cars and Henry Ford came about and said, hey, let's go and build this, a horse that's called, Ford T, and, any color, as long as black, right? But then gone the days that we probably said, why do we need to have cars, right? So maybe there are different ways to get people to be commuting. So I think whatever you do is about, you just have to make sure that in yourselves about do the right things and improve, people being, and not to conflict with your so-called, personal or your religious, requirement. Yeah, it's very important to do that. Of course, we don't mention here, but if you believe in innovate for the better of human being, you're already doing something in relate to the so-called the religion as well. Yeah. So yeah.
Ethical viewpoint in your innovation. Do you consider ethical viewpoints in your innovation?
Okay. You need to understand, CREST do not get into the real innovation work ourselves. We are more in terms of the agency that's put together by the industry to drive research and innovation between industry and academia. So when we select projects that are that we want to fund, yes, we will have to look in terms of what good does it bring in and whether is it ethical, non-ethical. Yeah, especially when you do in the area of so-called medical healthcare. So we have about on our portfolio right now on the R&D grant is about 8 projects on healthcare related. So we have to make sure that it does not goes away from the ethical line of doing things. Yeah, and also not to to do things that can help people to do crimes or whatever. So I think that those are the things that we, as an organization, could also mandating to manage the fund that's government endowed to us. So that's the amanah that we have to take care. I think we talked about that this morning in terms of agency like CREST, even though we are industry driven, but we are endowed by the government for 100 million over 10 years. We have to make sure that the money is given to us, and the project that we so-called the panel that work with us to approve the projects for the good of humanity. I mean, that's also within the lines of ethics. It's not written, but it's kind of something along that that we are part of our selection process. Right? Yeah. I hope that explains. I mean, thank you for your comment. Yeah.
So I don't know about this membership of being in CREST, but I do believe our researchers have applied for CREST and are not intimidated by the fact that are we members or not members. But do you have to be a member, Dr.?
To apply, you don't have to be a member.
To apply for the grant, right? You don't have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, upon awarded to receive the first drawdown, every party to the particular proposal has to be a member. So the 3-level memberships. Ordinary member, which is about 10,000 ringgit so-called one-time off, and to be ordinary member, there's a minimum requirement. You have also the full member, 30,000 ringgit, one-time off as well, and the highest level is actually the initial highest level we call it founding member, and we limit that to 19 members already, and you can still enjoy the so-called the privilege of a founding member, which is can be nominated to the board. Under the core membership, so that's about 50,000 one time off. Yeah. So once you're a member, you don't have to be a member again. So,
so basically, RMC has to be the member of right?
University has to be
And I believe there may have been successes, IIM successes. Let me check that out. Never. No. Success in getting the CREST grant. So we'll check that out. All right. So, but first. I really do want to extend the invitation to our colleagues here to attend the briefing on the CREST grant in the afternoon. There are researchers actively applying for the grant, and I think we will see in more detail the nature of the grant itself. So I think some of your more specific questions can be addressed. And in the meantime, the person facilitating that briefing, he has and is also applying for the grant. So these are things that further questions can be raised on that. I believe one more question, Prof.
So I wanted to ask about whether social sciences. I see all your projects are related to science, engineering, and so on. That can be answered probably in the afternoon. The second question that I had was when the product is being commercialized, what is the formula for the reward? I mean, it'll be, you say, a few millions worth the reward system, macam the profit. Katalah UIA and CREST partnership, and then this product has, say, 10 million worth of market value. So what is how UIA get, or the researcher gets, or whatever?
So when we first started, I'll answer the first question. It's easier because so far we don't have any social sciences, and being an organization built based on driving engineering, science, technology, we don't know yet how to linking the social sciences. Perhaps we can always look into that later on. So maybe we can have more discussion. Yeah.
So the research team is there.
Yeah. All right. Okay. The second question: how do you get rewarded? I guess as a collaborators, right? So when we first started in 2012, and the whole idea of CREST, I was from Motorola, and we have challenges in collaborating with the universities. Not everybody see collaborating with the industry is something they must do, and they're probably doing things that are of their own interest, more longer term, and we are more needing of somebody to solve real immediate problems at 2 years time frame, and maybe immediately to be applied into a product, into a process. So when we first started the CREST grant with the notion, we only want to get so-called to remove this barrier of collaborating and solving industry problem. So when CREST started this grant, we call it Open R&D Grant, which is a matching fund. We will match, let's say the project costs 100,000, we will only pay in cash for 50,000, the rest be covered by the company. It's matching grant, and we don't get into the middle of things. So basically, CREST stepping away from the IP ownership, or whatever, even the commercialization. So that's between the company and also the universities. Yeah. So because we want the research output largely done by the researcher to be translated by the company at the end of the project, or some are doing better because they're actually doing it more like concurrent. So as they got some new results over the 2 years period, they're already translating into a prototype, right? So this is probably some of the success model in terms of how do you commercialize faster. But we don't see you have to prescribe this or that model, because there are also projects that they do research first, maybe TRL level 3 or 4, then the company decide, once I get the so-called the fundamental results out and some of the lab prototype, then I'll take it on my own accord, my own cost to actually do the product development. So we allow any kind of model for them to be. Some areas you need more time to actually to realize the so-called the technology advantage, right? In terms of IP arrangement, we allow the company and university to agree on whatever arrangement you need to be, because I understand every different organization, every different universities had a different so-called IP so-called strategy or model. Some say I want to have the own IP and then license back. Some allow to be a joint IP right. Some say I don't want to be IP in the product. I want to be able to use the know-how. In fact, IP in the larger sense also cover know-how, right? Whatever IP that's developed not to be patented, I want to use that IP to be securing other grants or can get other contracts. So we allow all kind of arrangement, but we always be in the know, because when you sign the agreement also with CREST, because we don't want them monitoring how you progress, and also we also stop the payment if you don't make progress. So so that's the role of CREST in life, to make sure that whatever funding that we procure out, there is tangible results at the end of it, right? So I hope to answer that question. But how do you revenue? I mean, mostly the revenue will come from the companies. Saying how to share that, that's between how the IP arrangement could be licensing agreement. We don't want to dictate that. We will make some sort of a suggestion, but we don't dictate that. But later, in the afternoon, I thought there's the second version called targeted R&D, where CREST can fund more than 50% on certain areas. And we have about 10% of the projects are in the targeted R&D areas where we take IP position. Okay, our KPI is basically for the government to know that whatever the money spent, there is a so-called commercial value out of it. Something that create either new revenue and also new jobs, right? Because there's also the outcome of talent. So the talent that are been working on this project, typically they work very closely with the industry because that's the nature of the project. And most of the time before they graduate, they already get hired. Sometimes by the same company working, sometimes by other companies. And this is also the value, because now you create more, expert technologists, working in the industry or knowing the so-called the needs of the industry. Even if they decide not to work in the industry, they pursue their, let's say, become a researcher or from master's to PhD, they know what the industry needs are. So we want to create more of this type of people. And not just the so-called the student, also the researcher. Even sometimes the research output maybe does not meet the intended requirement. At least they understand what the industry needs, right? It's also to get more. So on our so-called database, we have close to about 2,000 so-called individuals that involved in research from the industry, academia, and also talents. Talent side, more than 7,000 since we started. So yeah, masters and PhD in undergrad. Yeah. We're also building the networks of people that are understanding what needs to be done to do this. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nur Azmi, and thank you very much to our participants. I know many of you have other questions. Please feel free to ask it outside of this event. Again, I would like to invite the participants to a CRESS briefing by Dr. Nur Azmi this afternoon. It's held at the RMC conference room. CRESS is one of the R&D funding provided by the government. The government of Malaysia provides a lot of funding, and we're one of the highest in the world when it comes to research funding, but not necessarily the highest in the world when it comes to research output. So this is again an amanah, but it is a government initiative to help Malaysians, and in the case of CRESS, Malaysian researchers and companies to solve certain issues. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Azmi, Nur Azmi, and thank you very much to our participants. We hope that this session has helped to spark some ideas. It may not be now, it may be a little later, but then again, it all starts with the idea. Once the idea is there, work on the idea until it leads to whatever results that you'd like it to lead. But it all starts with an idea, and I think we all need to work on our ideas, whether it's for on innovation, for commercialization purposes, or for basic research purposes. Thank you so much, and I need to give it back to our MC.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. And also thank you very much, Dr. Nur Azmi. Ladies and gentlemen, as a mark of appreciation to our speaker, I now invite Professor Dr. Ratnawati Muhammad Ashraf, IIUM, from IIUM to present a token of appreciation to Yang Berbahagia Dr. Nur Azmi alias Senior Vice President of CRESS. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, we have come to the conclusion of our program. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for your kind presence and support, especially our gratitude to Yang Berbahagia Dr. Nur Azmi alias Senior Vice President of CRESS for his remarkable speech. We would like also to apologize for any shortcoming in conducting this event. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower us with his blessing and rahmah. Till we meet again, Jazakumullah khairan kathira. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.